G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. I got a pretty exciting one for you today. I've got some coilovers here from BC Racing, which is pretty exciting. I'm going to be putting them on the 2023 WRX. At the moment there's about a 4-finger width gap between the wheel and the actual arch, so going to be super keen to get rid of that. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to open this box up and show you what's inside, show you some of the features of the racing coilovers, and then what I'm going to do is go and install them on the car. So come along and let's get it.
I'm here when you need my voice. I'm here when you need my voice. I'm here when you need my voice. I'm here when you need my voice.
Alright, so what's come with the kit is obviously your coilovers. We got front and rear coilovers as well. We got some sway bar end links, which is pretty awesome that they include these in the kit with it, so an expense you don't need to also add. I've also got some tools to adjust, and as well some bracketing for brake lines. Pretty awesome quality. I always go with BC Racing Coilovers ever since I had the Drift STI. Yeah, hope you enjoy. So one of the biggest things that we're actually fixing today is this. Like, come on. I mean, it's rally car, but jeez. So hopefully after this video, I won't be able to get my entire hand into this. So because I'm lowering the car, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front bumper off, just so I can get the jack in and out if the car's lower. Because of the front lip, it's going to be harder once the car's lower to actually get a jack in there or get it back out again. So you can see that in my previous video how to do it, but I'll use a little bit of YouTube magic. Ready, and so it's done like that.
First, the tools that you'll need for the job is a torque wrench with a 19mm socket on it to take the wheels off and put them on again. I've got some ring spanners, a 12 and a 14, a 17 and a 19, a flathead screwdriver, and a 12, a 14 and a 17mm socket with a 1/2 inch ratchet. You've also got a jack and some jack stands. Make sure that you uncrack the wheels before you take them off and put them in the air. It's a lot easier to get them off. Next, I undid the ABS sensor from the bracket on the shock, and then took off the brake line with a 12mm bolt that's attaching it. Next step, spray some WD-40 onto the sway bar end links, and make sure that you crack them all at the same time. This will enable the sway bar to be under no tension. If you do one side, there'll be a lot of tension and you won't be able to get it off very easily, so each side is easy to do. Then they pop right out. Next, I put some WD-40 onto the shock bolts. I marked where the top camber bolt was originally so I could put it back roughly where it was when I put it on the new shock. Also, I put a jack stand underneath the control arm just to make sure that the axle didn't drop down too hard. Next, the top bolts, they're 14mm nuts, and hold on to the shock as you're dropping it down so it doesn't come down too hard, and then you can maneuver it out quite easily. This is the difference between the McPherson strut and the coilover. The coilover is a lot smaller, and there's obviously the adjustment there. When you're putting it in, pay attention to the top camber placement. The camber has to go horizontal towards the car. You can have it forwards if you'd like some caster adjustment, but for my case, I wanted to have the camber adjustment. Then you can just rotate the shock to make sure it's in line. And you'll see here that it's horizontal to the engine bay to do the camber adjustment. I then did up the top nuts on top of the top hat. And then I lifted the axle to put the bolt through so that it was all together again. You'll notice with the top camber bolt, I'm just adjusting it to roughly where it was before, just so that the wheels are a little bit more straight. You'll obviously have to get a wheel alignment after this. Here I tightened up the shock bolts fully. And there was a bracket for the ABS sensor that came with the kit. It just locates easily. And then once you've bolted it in, the ABS sensor just clicks in as if it's a standard one. Now I'm putting the brake line back on with the 12mm bolt. Now I take the new sway bar end links, put some WD-40 on. I locate them all first, put the nuts on first, and then I tighten it from the bottom and then to the top, just so that they're all under the right tension.
So that's the front's done. So now what I want to do is I want to set up the dampening so it's exactly the same across both sides, because I just want it to all be on a level playing field. I found that I really liked having all the way to the right and then back off 3. It seems to be a nice, like, hard but like a little bit softer feel for me. You can lean into corners a bit nicer, so I'll just show you how to do that.
I actually found that 5 clicks back from fully stiff was much better than 3.
Simple as that. That's the front done. So now what I'm going to do is put on the front wheels and then move to the back.
Make sure you check everything's tight before you put your wheels back on.
First, what I want to do is I'm going to take off the bottom bolts. It's a lot easier to do the rears than the front. That's why I left the fronts till first, then I did the rears last. So just a couple of bolts down the bottom, then we get into the boot and we do the top 2 bolts.
First step, I undid all of the nuts on the bottom of all of the bolts down. First the sway bar, I took the bolt out, then the axle, took the bolt out, and then I undid the shock, but I left the bolt in. Then I undid the very end of the control arm, just a little bit, so that when I took the bolt out for the shock, it would just swing down nice and easily out the way. Next I did all the clips. I didn't fully film this, but they're quite easy to separate. There's a separate between the 2, as you'll see here. There's a few in the boot, so you've just got to go around the edges and make sure you take them all out. There's also the carpet that you've got to take out and the foam. And as well, there's a little plastic backing that you've got to take 3 clips out and it just pops out. Once you take out the sides, it'll show you the top shock bolts and you just undo them. I put something beneath the shock just to make sure when it dropped down, it didn't drop down too hard. This is the difference between the standard coilover and the updated one. Now putting it back together, I aligned it where it's supposed to be, make sure that it was all facing the right direction that it should. And then I held up the control arm to slot it all in, put all of the bolts in so that it was located. It's going to be a bit shorter, so it's not going to go straight into the top shock tower, but that's okay. I then got the jack and I jacked it up a little bit from the ball joint at the bottom so that I could locate it properly in the top. It was a little bit fiddly at this time, but that's okay. Eventually I got it in, and I put the top shock bolts in and then fully jacked it up to the top. And then I was able to tighten it all up. Then I tightened up all of the bottom nuts and bolts. Don't forget the control arm. Then I put the wheels back on. At this point, it's probably worth going for a drive to see whether or not you like the ride adjustment that you've got, and you can change the dampening, but I put the boot back together here. Then I lifted the car back up again, and as the wheels were touching the ground, I used my torque wrench to torque all of the bolts on the wheels. Then it was the bumper back on, and we're ready to go.
Angle out the driveway. Oh, a little bit of a scrapage because I'm not used to being as low as I am.
When you need my when you need when you need
So yeah, suspension test went really well. Ran into some WRX friends when I went out, which was sick. Really having me looking forward to getting an exhaust for the thing because they sound so good with an exhaust. But yeah, stick around. There's way more coming. So thanks very much for watching and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Sweet.